Hi, my name's Tony Sharples and welcome to Old Dog New Tricks. This is the next update in my series of how I've been going with developing my business online. It's been interesting for the last 2 weeks because I've actually been on holiday travelling overseas with my son. I've done a few reports from Hong Kong and Japan just to test doing content on the go. And I think the interesting thing about where I find myself this week and indeed over the last 2 weeks is that I've sort of entered a testing phase for content. Now, first of all, I've decided that one of the important things that I need to do is I really need to build a sort of a bedrock of content on Twitter, on my site, on YouTube and things like that. So I've been concentrating really on building content and stories over the last couple of weeks. And I think it links back to a thing that I've heard Gary Vaynerchuk talk about a lot in his podcasts and on video. He talks about this concept of tasting things and trying things, and I'm really becoming a bit of a firm believer in this. So for example, I've been doing a lot of tasting and trying for the last couple of weeks on Twitter and also on Instagram. And it's been interesting. I've been trying to mix between stories that I post on my blog and on my website that automatically just post across to Twitter and Instagram. But I've also been trying individual posts that only go onto Twitter or only go onto Instagram, just really to get a feel for how these things work. And it's been interesting. I mean, my Twitter following has stayed fairly constant, but I have found that my Instagram activity has gone through the roof, which has been great. It's been an interesting exercise. I mean, I've tried some heavily strategic content like this, and I've tried things like this, and I've tried other things like this, which are very strategically focused and thought out and link across to other things. But I've also tried just more topical content, things that I've seen and done and whatever while I've been on the go. And interestingly, the highest level of response that I've received is this post. A pretty standard shot of Hong Kong at sunset, and by far got the lion's share of comments and feedback on particularly Instagram. So I think that's been a really good indicator for me in terms of what works and what doesn't work on Instagram. And I think what I'm going to be trying to do in the next few weeks is trying to find a blend between strategic and crafted sort of content just versus pure topical and interesting content that way. On YouTube and indeed on podcasts as well, all I'm really doing now is I'm focused on building a sort of a solid level of content existing on my YouTube channel, on my blog and on my podcasts. What I'm finding now is that my podcasts are spreading out, and I'm now I think on about 7 or 8 different platforms. I think the only one remaining is iTunes, and that should happen in the next week or so. And because I'm getting more and more content out there, both on YouTube and on podcasts, I'm starting to be able to look at the analytics behind those things and once again get a feel for what works and what doesn't work. So very much in the weeks ahead, I'm going to be continuing this thing across Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube and my blog in terms of just trying things that are strategically based and thought out and whatever, and then just trying things for the sake of trying things, and to really build a bit of a feedback loop in terms of what's working and what's not. So one of the things I'm trying and I'll be focusing on for the next couple of weeks is looking at doing content that is more oriented towards lists of things, so like a top 6 of that or a top 10 of that, which is sort of a bit of tried and tested winner for most different social media platforms. And also in the week ahead, I'm going to be trialing shifting my podcast from being basically a piece of content that I just talk about to trying to get co-hosts and other people involved for a more of a two-way conversation and see what the impact of that format is, but also sharing audiences with other podcasters. So I've put a message out to the Anchor community to try and find people to do joint podcasts within the week moving forward. Not so much focus on the advertising side of things, mainly because really the advertising side of things falls into the basket of it's pretty easy to do. do. I've been trialing a bit of boosting on Facebook for posts just to see what sort of posts get different sort of responses and stuff like that. I don't think I've got enough content built up yet to refer people back to get a decent read on that. So I'm not pushing so hard on the advertising side of things with I might do a bit of AdWords work in the coming week just to sort of start to push that along. But I'm doing a lot of work in terms of SEO on the blog and stuff like that. So I'm not so much worried about trying to push things out via Facebook and via AdWords and things like that. Okay, so just to wrap up, as I said, I think in the last couple of weeks, and particularly my focus in the couple of weeks moving forward, is going to be going into this tasting phase of content. I'm going to be trying lots of things. I'm going to try and do lots of different things across Instagram and Twitter and YouTube to try and get a feel for what works and what doesn't work. And a continuing focus on just trying to build up a decent level of content across different platforms, which I think really is a pretty foundational thing you need to do before you can start to really actively try and interact with communities of people and build followership for those areas. So that's it for this week. I will see you next time.